Hello, this is the Alchemists Inkwell.
It is, isn't it? This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people. Everybody take a collective deep breath and plant your feet on the floor as I put myself in the lotus pose, which is also grounding. So if you want to put yourself in the lotus pose, you can do that too, cross-leg.
All the grounding.
Here, if you're watching, you can use my crystals.
Mm-hmm. We are not grounded today. It has been a fucking doozy of an energy adventure pretty much since like 2 days before the full moon. And since then is how I'm gonna say it, because that's really how it felt. Also, like on the full moon, and I know when you guys listen to this, it's gonna be like 2 weeks ago, but I cleansed every damn thing in my house to such an extreme extent because I was like, something needs to change. And I think everyone was kind of feeling that. So if you were in that space with us, hello, welcome, hi.
Yeah, it's a lot. And, astrologers keep talking about, we're not going to feel this exact, so it's not going to show up on any like app or anything that you might refer to, but Saturn is squaring Uranus again. And Uranus, because Saturn is retrograde, they're mutually applying. Uranus is direct and headed towards Saturn for now. I mean, Uranus has basically been standing still for weeks, but still is technically considered direct, even though he's moving kind of slow these days. And Saturn is moving backwards and is only halfway through the retrograde. We know this because that happened over the weekend. Lots of stuff where light was shown on certain things that were kept private or restricted and are no longer. Yeah. So there's that kind of stuff. A lot of contention. Yeah.
And it's a doozy, and we have a lot of astrology stuff kind of coming up this week. We were talking about it beforehand, and both of us were like, we don't want to refer to it as dynamic because honestly, we're just tired. And
that was a nice word like 2 months ago, and now it's done.
It's done. Because every week is just like another thing. So if you're feeling that, like, yeah, you are. We agree for sure. It's we will get peace. It will come, but it's not right now.
Yes.
It's a lot. And we wanted to kind of dive in today to talk about overthinking and how to hold space for yourself outside of yourself and stop those overthinking things that are definitely really prevalent in our space, especially as we enter into Virgo season, which is the season of overthinking.
Especially with Mercury being there. Mercury throughout the rest of Virgo season is going to, in some point in September, which I have written down, it's mid to late September, I believe, Mercury retrogrades and goes back into Virgo even after leaving to go into Libra throughout September. So we've got a lot of Mercury and Virgo time, and some of that being retrograde. So there's a lot of time. If you are overthinking, don't worry, because you're going to have plenty of time to go back and like cross your T's and dot your I's and do all the things that you feel like you might want to be able to edit and do those things. You have time to give yourself revisions. If this is just a first draft of whatever you're doing right now, it's okay. It can be a little sloppy. That's fine.
That's a cute way.
Knowing that the Virgos out there are not going to believe me.
I know, but like, you have time to give yourself revisions. It's such a cute little visual, though. I love that. That's adorable.
I have a Virgo midheaven. So when it comes to like presenting things, I really try for perfection. And only in the last few years have I been like, if there's a typo, 5,000 people are going to point out that there's a typo, but dang, if I didn't put all I had into it.
Like, life will be fine if there's a typo.
Yeah. It really comes down to, what do you have the energy to accomplish and what do you have the desire to accomplish, which is another aspect of an aspect between planets that we'll be looking into this week as Mercury opposes Neptune. Mercury again being in Virgo right now.
Yeah. And it could be that you're like, wow, I actually have the energy to throw everything. Like, I want to dive into everything. And that's totally alignment. You don't have to just be like, when we say that, be like, oh, my energy is supposed to be limited. No, not necessarily. Maybe
No,
you have a
thank you
lot
for
of
pointing that
energy
out.
and a lot of things you want to accomplish. Awesome. Do it. Dive into that. That's great. But if you only have a little bit and you are like, I have a lot of things to accomplish, then it's going to be more of a weeding out process, which is totally fine. Both are completely valid.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because sometimes we think that it's got to be one thing or the other thing, which is another thing to keep in mind during Virgo season. You do not have to be 100% one way or 100% the other way. One of Emily's really cool techniques is the and versus but. So it doesn't have to be this, but that. It can be this and that. You can be a beautiful blend of multiple things. So that's something to give yourself permission for as we go
Yeah,
into
we
this.
teach about that in our writing programs, because when you use the word but, it changes the energy of the first half of the sentence and essentially negates it. Like, it essentially shuts that energy down. The concept is kind of along the lines of, if, for example, if you said, I love you, but please pick up your socks off the floor, the I love you part doesn't hit. The energy just goes away. It gets taken away. Instead of, I love you and please pick up your socks off the floor. Then both things feel equal. And all of you listening, if you had your energy senses on, you can feel the difference in that sentence. Do that to yourself instead of butting yourself all over the place, and yourself, and it will really help.
Yep.
We wanted to talk, like I said, techniques for overthinking. To get all of that overthinking energy outside of yourself, because when we're overthinking, oftentimes what we're doing is we're processing too much energy within our space. We're processing too many ideas. We have too much stuff coming in and we're not actually letting it out. So it ends up gathering. And this goes beyond just like clearing your energy, because this is like deep thoughts, pings, ideas, imagination stuff. All of it just gets in there and it gets muddled and it gets too much really quickly. And that's not just clearing your energy. Those are actually stuff for you that come from you, all this stuff that's just sitting in your space. Of course, as always, start by clearing your energy. That's always the first technique to go to. But if you need something to do with all of this overthinking energy, we got tips.
And
also, do as we say, not as we do.
I was gonna say, what we don't got, we'll channel in so that we can get past our own physical limitations here. Yeah, there's a lot to overthink about right now. So let's just start with validating that if you're overthinking, you're not doing something wrong.
No.
It's not bad that you're overthinking. It just means that you've got a lot in your sphere right now. So one of the other things that Virgo is really good at is organizing. Overthinking is simply just thoughts that have not been organized and have not been given a place to plant themselves. If you imagine your thoughts as little flowers or little seeds, if they each had a little pod to plant in, they could grow, and it could be this natural wildflower garden. And wouldn't that be nice? Like, if all of your thoughts, instead of being chaotic and strewn all over the place, felt like wildflowers. I'm actually going to use that.
Me too. I think
I'm not
that's
chaotic. My thoughts are wildflowers. And then you just weave them into a wildflower crown and you wear it wherever you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
For those of you, I just said, I was like, I'm going to go draw that after this, because that's one of the easiest ways to stop overthinking, is to do something like that that's creative, that puts a representation. It also is a way of kind of creating a talisman or an activation for yourself via an image. It's super duper powerful. So even if you're not artistic, it can be really helpful. Drawing or coloring book or anything like that can make a big difference. So I was like, oh, that's how I'm going to ground these wildflowers. I'm going to draw them and then I'll have to deal with them.
But you get the perspective to be able to at least see them, because that the things that are not seen are the things that are the most confusing and boggling, because we can't figure out what to do with the thing that we can't understand. So if you can create a way to understand it better, that's going to be however you go about doing that. Creating a way and a space and the permission and the grace to understand something is going to give it the ability to be integrated. This is also very relative to anxiety, which becomes trauma or comes from trauma. If you can find a way to understand and accept it, it is something that you can walk hand in hand with. It can be your wildflower field, as compared to this, cactus that just follows you around. I like cactus, don't get me wrong.
Unless you've ever had cactus splinters, you like them less.
I have. I've fallen into cactuses before, cacti. It's no bueno, but
they're cute though. They are cute.
Yeah.
I will give you that. They're adorable little beings.
They're spiny little critters.
Right. The other thing, one of the main techniques whenever I'm overthinking, find someone you feel safe pacing and ranting to.
Yes, I
Like,
was just about to bring that one up.
yeah. And I honestly mean, don't sit there and rant. It'll help. But like, if you can get up and move while you rant, it will actually keep your thoughts going, and it won't help. Like, it'll help you get past getting stuck on a loop because you're moving while you're ranting. And it will make a difference genuinely in your space. Even if you're just doing it to your dog. Like if you're just ranting to your dog, that is totally valid. You just want another being there, or even just like set up a bunch of stuffed animals and rant to them. Like some sort of something that you're like, there's a listener, someone is caring and paying attention. Everything is a consciousness, which means stuffed animals do too. I still own every single stuffed animal I've ever had for my entire life. They are literally in my house right now. So like that tells you how attached to that I am. But very much so, like now they're in my kids' rooms. Okay, they're not all in my room. Some are, but not all of them. But just having that space held in some way by someone just sitting there, and you can literally, for your partner or for your friend, you're like, listen, I need to rant. Please don't say anything, just nod, or occasionally be like, yes, or occasionally ask a question, like lay out what you want from them in the beginning of that space. And also if like offer the space too, if you want to rant afterwards, I will sit and do this in turn, because everyone's feeling this overthinking energy. Everyone has too much stuff going on in their space. There's so much going on in the zone that this will really, really help probably your partner, your friend, your mom, whoever you're ranting to as well, have the space to do that. And just know that like, be like, I want no judgment and I'll hold no judgment for you. And it gives you that freedom to have that movement of energy, and it makes everything work so much better. I cannot stress that enough.
I'm actually known in my family for my rants. And I say in my family because I don't rant outside of my family. I've had so many people be like, you should rant on TikTok. It'd be hilarious. I don't think it would be as well received on TikTok if I ranted there.
I love your rant, but
oh my
I wouldn't
gosh,
push you to do them outside of us.
yeah, they are so cathartic. And I think that's the point, right? And so I will tell my family, I need to rant. Do you have the space to listen to me? And some of them get excited about it. Because typically I'm also quite good with words and wordplay and puns. And that comes out. I'm very loquacious when I'm angry or when I'm ranting. Mars in the fifth and Pisces, I guess. But what ends up happening is I come up with these things to say, and the person in front of me laughs. And not only does that make me feel like, okay, this person is receiving how I'm feeling and not judging me for it, but also I get to actually express myself in a way that when they laugh, it makes me feel less tense. And so, and then there is a type of laughter that is good. And then there is a type, they laugh with me. Let's put it that way, rather than laughing at me. If it ever gets to the laughing at me, I am probably too quick to be like, that's not actually funny. That wasn't the joke. And we've learned those nuances as a family dynamic, as a relationships dynamic, all of those things. But also I asked for permission at the beginning of each rant to not be judged by what I say, because I need to get the feelings out so I can put a name to them so that I can understand them. And so that I can clear them up with myself. I do not always need advice. I will let people know if I want advice. But I do need to let it come out in a flow of consciousness, not so that I can perpetuate the anger, but so that I can understand it, see it for what it is, and then reframe it, which is really helpful.
Like, so you can deal with it just in general.
Yeah.
And it actually gives, like, even if you're not, most of the time people are like, yeah, but then I don't remember what I'm going to, like what I all said during the rant. Like, I don't remember all of that. So like, it doesn't help with overthinking. Actually, that's kind of the point. You will understand and remember and get the clarity that you're looking for through doing that activity. It just, you probably won't remember all of it because you're getting it out of your space and giving it a container to exist differently. Another really powerful way to do this, and this is only if you feel comfortable, but I do this quite often. Set up your phone to video record mode and rant to yourself. It's so helpful. I cannot stress enough, because you're not sitting there like, if you cry, who cares? It's to you. Like, no one ever has to see it. And you never have to bring up to anyone else that you did this. But it is so cathartic to just speak your truths to yourself in that way. I have so many videos on my phone of me doing this, and it moves pieces for you that otherwise wouldn't get moved. And you're doing it with utter and complete freedom. You give yourself this like, fuck. And you can even sit there and be like, man, I really feel uncomfortable doing this, but I guess I'm doing it. Like you can start talking that way and it will just keep going and going and going, and give that overthinking a container that exists outside of yourself where it is held. You can rewatch it later if you want, or you can delete it. You can do whatever you want with it, but it's held somewhere else. The space exists not just in your head. And there's a very unique magic in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can also do it like with your reflection. I say with instead of at or to your reflection, because you don't want to assign any kind of insults or anger to your reflection, because it is a reflection. It'll come back. So you want to like just be like, I am taking into assumption that everyone who is listening to this is in a place in their lives where this is meant for them.
Yeah.
And so I know that you, the listener, are in a place to understand that when I say rant with your reflection, that you are not pinning beliefs and limits on your reflection, and that you are not trying to insult yourself and things like that. You are wiser than that. And I already know that about you. So I'm not going to spend too much time on a disclaimer for that, because I know you got this, you're fine. So just knowing that like your reflection's one thing, a journal is another. Typing is sometimes faster than writing. Writing is sometimes more effective and like helps you slow down. If you also are overthinking, bullet journal everything in your head and then start mapping it to what feeling is associated with that. It gets so disorganized, but it's organized. It's like this organized chaos thing that just feels so good. It's like when you intentionally mess something up, knowing that you can realign it later if you want to. For those out there who are like me, it's just nice to like write a list of everything, circle it, and then say that's associated with this. And then you can actually compartmentalize everything down to probably 1 or 2 or 3 bigger subjects. And when you see those, it's like, oh, this list of 10 things, it's actually just this list of 3 things. I can handle those. And that's fantastic.
So, the other thing too is if you don't necessarily want to have attachment to any of the thoughts that are going on, if you've thought about them in every angle you can possibly think about them, and you're just like, I just need to get them out, you can journal using only squiggles. Like, it's I'm getting this out of my head, but I don't want to read back over it. If you're in that energy, just for every letter, just do a little like loop-de-loop, little squiggly wiggle, a little woogly woogly, whatever. There's all of your onomatopoeias for the day. Got you. But seriously, like just blah, 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 like the is just point, and then you go on, and you can just, the words are still coming out, but you're not focused on your handwriting. You're not focused on reading it back over again. You're not going to be able to read it back over again, but it's still getting all of that like flow out of your space. You can go really, really quickly with that. And it makes a lot of difference if you're just like, I just need to not think about these things anymore. Cool. That will still put the energy of those things somewhere else, and you won't have to read about it, but it gets it out of your zone, and it's invaluable. It's really helpful.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because it's not about, again, to all the Virgo energies out there, it's not about doing it perfectly, which is anxiety inducing sometimes in itself. It is about just doing it, letting it exist, letting it be. That whole phrase of being a human being and not a human doing is something that sometimes you have to remind yourself of that. Like, did I get too caught up in the routine? Do I need to slow down and check in with myself? When we look at Virgo season, and I looked at the chart for the inception of Virgo season, which by the way is on the 22nd of August at exactly 11:17 p.m. Eastern time. If you're really interested about when the sun goes into Virgo, it is going to be in an inferior square to Mars in Gemini by this point. But they do have, there's some stuff that helps make it a little bit nicer. We're going to be driven towards the details. I even said the devil is in the details with this because Mars, it was supposed to be funny. It's just trying to be funny, no pressure. But we are also going to be like making a lot of progress when it comes to that. Mars is fire and fast and in air. So there's really not a lot of friction holding him back. And with the sun also being kind of fiery, we have a lot of like, I can get this stuff done. I have the motivation. I have the ambition, especially if you were someone born at night. Mars can give you a little bit more of that edge towards ambition. And we also at this point have Mercury being the ruler of the sun and of Mars and of himself. He is, well, at this point, they are, trying to remember the phase they're at. I can't picture it in my head, and it's actually not relevant to the conversation, but there goes the overthinking. So good example for you guys. So Mercury's in domicile because they are exalted in Virgo and also domicile in Virgo. So super strong with the sun now in Virgo and Mars in Gemini. Those are both Mercury's signs. So Mercury has a lot of influence going on here. And let me just look at the rest of this. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, even with interactions going on with Pluto, and all of this I go into more detail in the Astro overview if you want all of those things. But this is a time for new routines, a lifestyle audit, checking in and doing a body check and giving yourself a spiritual tune-up. I even have in here like raging against something and ranting to be able to give yourself the space to vent out that frustration so that you can transmute it into, take out the frustration and let it be your power. Because right now it is just power without an outlet. And if you give it a purpose, it becomes power. So for reference, an affirmation that I have given and channeled in for this is, I build my character and values day by day, choice by choice. You do not have to have it all figured out at the same time. Write down anything that's bothering you and then understand the next actionable thing that you can do about it. And that's really all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just, I like looked down for a second because like the guides were like giving me like massive visual stuff. It can be also as simple as simply turning on very intense music and just dancing to it or screaming to it or driving around in your car just to go for a drive with like the windows down and lots of music going on. That can be just as cathartic in that space, just as releasing in that space, just as allowing in that space. And you will feel better afterwards. The ping I was getting from my guides, because I saw that and I was like, oh, I'll talk about that. And they're like, you have to, not have to, but it is really important if you sit this week and you're like, oh, I can do all of these things to feel better. If you feel resistance to that, why do you have a resistance to feeling better? Because that's what's coming up, I think, on a collective level in a big way. Is it because it feels like it always gets taken away? Is it because that feeling better means you won't be able to relate to the people around you who are feeling crappy? Like, what is it that's coming up that's stopping you from wanting to feel better, or for feeling like doing anything to feel better is too much work, too much energy, you name it? Because that needs to be addressed first before you can really do any of these things.
And that is a really great point. There is in society right now almost a survivor's guilt that goes along with anything good that happens, because there's so many people who are still struggling with the energies, and so many people, like, yes, society has groups of people who are not acclimating as well as others to a lot of the changes. And we're each taking turns being the group that's not acclimating well to certain changes. Yeah. Somebody's mad about this week. Another group's mad about that next week. It is just going back and forth. Everybody gets a frustration. So I'm not going to, say one group or the other is more right or more wrong. We are all valid in our feelings. Handle them with responsibility and, still give each other and yourself unconditional love, please, because that is one area where I think we could do a little bit better or more. But off of that soapbox, we do have a lot of, like, starting on the 24th, every outer planet will be in retrograde. So society and the world has been kind of slowing down. We haven't been making a ton of progress like we were in the beginning of the year, where everything's just unloading. Now we're coming into, oh, this happened, and now we're finding this out. This happened, and now we're finding this out. So we're kind of in the messing around was in the beginning of the year, and finding out is where we are in the second half of the year. A lot of that coming in, some of it will loosen up in October, and then gradually over the course of the last quarter of the year, planets will start going direct again. And even by the end of January, everybody's direct again for a little while. So that's nice. But just know this is the time for assessing. This is the time for observing and reflecting, and also for, not having to be so involved in everything. Follow what you feel drawn to be involved in. Pursue the things where you feel like you can make a positive impact. If there's something out there that you're trying to insert yourself into because it feels like you should, as Emily likes to say, stop shoulding on yourself and Allow yourself to follow the place where you can make a difference, where you can make change possible, where you can help people. And if you focus on that, you will find that you have more fulfillment and likely more joy. And if someone is frustrated by that, they are on their own journey, not only in society, but in their own life cycles. And you can just encourage them to do the same thing. And that way, nobody has to, get too up in arms over things that are going on with other people. There's this one video of, it's a dad, I think, telling a little girl to put her seatbelt on. And she's just like, you worry about yourself. And spends the whole video just saying, no, thank you. You worry about yourself. And that I always found so empowering. I still use it sometimes and just be like, no, thank you. You worry about yourself. I've got this. And we all have the ability and the power to do that. And I hope it makes you laugh as much.
It's definitely a week of your monkeys. Pay attention to your monkeys and your circus.
Yeah.
Not other people's monkeys and circuses, or the ones that other people would like to throw at you. You do not need to adopt new monkeys just because someone else would like to give you one.
Yeah. I don't know if this is just a me thing. I doubt it is. Has anybody ever thrown something at you? And because you were like, I didn't ask for that, you didn't even lift your arms to catch it and just let it fall? Let it fall. They threw it. Like, it doesn't mean you have to catch it if that wasn't in your realm to catch. And it's something that, like, you don't have to worry about if a ball drops that it's automatically your fault. That is such a Virgo thing to think as well. Like, if there's a ball in the air, I must be the one who has to catch it because nobody else is going for it. Mm-hmm. Did you ask for the ball? I remember the first time I chose to get help with therapy, that was my biggest breakthrough was, did you ask for that? And I was like, no, I did not. And it was the biggest thing to realize that it should not have been expected from me if it wasn't asked of me and agreed upon. And if I didn't ask for it. Mm-hmm. Every connection is exactly that. It is a connection. And in order to connect, like a phone doesn't connect with another phone if the person on the other end of the line doesn't pick up. That's not a connection. That's a missed call. And it's okay to let some things go to voicemail right now. That's your analogy for the week.
Oh my God. I felt all the Virgos go.
I know, I'm one of them. I'm like, when it comes to working from home, I am the person who's 9 p.m. asleep. Here's my phone go off and like would not be able to let it go until the morning. That took a lot of conscious effort. And do not disturb.
Yeah. And do not disturb. Yeah, I've been working and diving into a lot of like redefining what codependence means, because that's been a big breakthrough in the last like 6 months in the actual like psychology field, where people have actually redefined what codependence means based on this world and what's going on and like this collective trauma that a lot of us have gone through. And so I've been reading a lot about that, and it's been very fun. And that's one of the things is like, codependence doesn't just mean like you need a person around in order to be okay. Like it used to, that's how it used to kind of be defined. Now it's more along the lines of like, you're the one that feels required for everyone's happiness and those sorts of things. And you can't just let your phone go till the morning. And like all of those spaces is like, oh, that aligns a whole lot more with me than any other previous definition of like codependency. And so I highly recommend, if anyone is like, whoa, what? That's codependent, like go look it up, go do some like reading and independent research on that, because we are not psychologists by any means. But that has been something that is very much aligned with our conversation that I've been diving into quite distinctly and it's, like I said, it's been kind of newly redefined. And that's kind of nice to be like, oh, okay, that's a new space. That's like a redefined space that we're entering into. And that applies to a lot more people, and a lot more people can actually talk about what's going on with them because of this newly defined sort of zone that we're in. And it's very validating.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. And in fact, at the end of this week, I'm scrolling a little bit here, so bear with me. But at the end of this week, Mercury is going to be ingressing into Libra. So out of Virgo into Libra. And you think of Mercury, speaking of making connections, Libra being focused on relationships and fairness and equal exchanges of energy. I like to remind people that something that blew my mind when I first heard it was that we think of Libra, we think of the scales. But the scales aren't the dishes on either side. The scales are that which keeps the dishes in balance. It's the thing in the middle. So you get to decide what balance looks like. You don't have to put all of your energy into both of those things. Otherwise, there is nothing to hold them up. So you have to make sure that you are firm and prepared to have the objective perspective. It is an air sign to say that is there, and this is equal. You have to be able to have a little bit of separation from the situation to be fair. And I think for all my Libras out there with heavy Libra energy, you're beautiful people. And you're also very caring people. And you get involved in a lot of circuses with a lot of monkeys. And sometimes it's hard to not want to take care of every monkey. So it's okay to say, well, what do all of the monkeys need? And, you know, where am I needed and where am I not needed? And where is it okay to let this, save this for later? Maybe a not right now rather than a no. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity for compromise with Mercury there, for mediation in situations. And because we did talk about this, Mercury will station direct on September 9th, and it'll enter the pre-shadow on the 21st. So right around that time, it gets ready to start covering those things that will be recovered through September 9th to October 2nd, for those who are interested.
Who's excited for retrograde?
Mercury retrograde, yay.
Yeah, it doesn't look like one that's going to affect travel for some reason. When I look at it, it's less travel-y. It's more communications. It's funny because whenever we look at retrograde, it's like, okay, what is it going to hit? Like sometimes it's tech, and sometimes it's in this one, it's just like, misunderstandings.
Yeah,
everywhere.
And some people like being too demanding, some people not demanding enough. Again, that lack of balance in situations may come up in that first bit from August 21st through, what did I say? September, was it 9th? Yeah, September 9th. Stuff that comes up at that point, which starts this week, those things, be willing to give it a first try, because these are the things that we will be able to revisit, be able to have the ability to have the bonus action of coming back to revisit through September 9th through October 2nd. It's not, oh no, everything's going to fall apart. It's, hey, we're going to be able to strengthen this. We're going to be able to go over it with another pass and make sure it's even better than we thought it was. We're going to be able to exceed our own expectations, Virgos, including myself with my midheaven. It's going to be better than we originally imagined. That's a nice way to look at it. And that's a nice way to take into consideration Mercury retrogrades in general. Yes. Will there be glitches and hiccups? Absolutely. Because you're doing something new and you need to know what needs to be fixed in order to fix it. So they will make themselves known. And the response is just, well, that happened. Now I can do something about it. And honestly, I'm one of those people where I don't tend to, just because of the way I was brought up. It's like ingrained in me. One of my personal rules that I hold to myself, whether it's arbitrary or useful or not, is I don't use swear words that often. But what I do is I tend to swear in transits or in aspects that are happening. So if something goes wrong lately, it's been a lot of like, Saturn opposite Sun or Saturn at curtailed passage. Those are big words, but Uranus in Taurus has been a very frequent, like if I stub my toe or something like that, I will exclaim Uranus and Taurus, or like Uranus square Saturn or something like that. Cause I know that that's the energy of it, but also saying it out loud shows me that like, it's okay that happened. I had someone over the weekend, I spilled coffee all over myself, and we had just been talking about astrology, and they didn't mean to be like joking at me, but I wasn't in the best of moods that day. And I had just spilled really hot coffee on myself. So they were like, well, where does that show up in your astrology? And I was like, I could find out. I won't, but I could find out. And it was there, obviously, but yeah.
And I did find out.
I did later, only for myself, not to like prove a point of them, but because I was like, I wonder what this does look like now that I'm in a better space. But I did find it.
It's just funny. You're like, I did find out, but
it's always nice to be able to look into those things. My whole brain functions on astrology, so it's fun. I like it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So are there any other big astrology things that we want to pay attention to over the next week?
For the next week, again, thinking about the fact that on the 21st, so the day before Virgo season, Mercury will oppose Neptune as it also enters its pre-shadow phase. Do not let social media astrologers out there scare you into thinking pre-shadow is something horrible. It happens 4 times a year. So you've done this before. You're going to be okay. If you want to be proactive about it, as this Virgo season might encourage you to be, it's a nice idea to look at where Libra is in your chart and just realize that, oh, stuff that is going on in this area of my life, the house that Libra is in will tell you the area of life that is going to be seeing things happen, come up and be able to be revised throughout this process. That area is where I can know that I've got time, that I've got more time than I thought, or that if something comes up and feels like it went wrong, it's okay because it's going to come back around. I get to work on this. That is very important. Also, extra astrology tip, you may not notice it at all. And there is a reason for this. Often, if you have Libra on one of your angles, which is like the cross of your chart, would be the first house, the seventh house, the 10th house, or the fourth house, then you might notice it in your outer world more because it is angular. If it's not on one of those, like for me, it's actually the 12th house. So I'm preparing for mental health stuff, but
that's not fun.
It can be if you're proactively self-undoing, isn't that fun? That's the Scorpio rising with Pluto and Moon on the ascendant anyway. Like, yay, ego deaths. But anyway,
ego death.
Listen, I'm for it. I'm ready. Because at least it's something happening. Give me the
No,
intention.
I totally agree. I'm fully on board 100%,
well,
but it's just the way you phrased it.
So you'll probably notice it in the way that your identity and your worldview works and just the things that are happening around you personally. So that's really cool too.
Ego death?
Yay, ego death. Actually, no, yay, ego growth. You know, the awareness of self.
Yeah. That's a good point though.
Yeah. But if it's not on an angle, you may not notice it much because it's part of the like transitional process rather than a plot point in the story. It's the build up or the wind down.
Oh, I like that phrasing.
Yeah. That's how I talk in my, my readings with people. We talk about the plot points in life and the build up to it and the winding down. Yeah. In astrology, those are called angular triads.
Because your life is a book. It just is. Which means you're the main character. Embody it. Enjoy that. That means you are the main character.
You are the hero.
That's fun. Awesome. Well, thank you. That is all really helpful, I think. I just want to validate again for anyone out there. If you're tired, rest. Whatever rest looks like to you, however rest feels like to you. If that is take a nap, that's great. I hate naps. I won't nap. You can't make me. Yeah, no napping over here. Don't like them. I don't like the feeling of when I wake up, I feel like the world changed and I missed it.
Yes. I didn't even like going to sleep as a kid. Yeah.
I can do it at night, fine, because the world is sleeping too. I can get behind that. I can understand that energy, but I'm a huge night owl. I stay up super fucking late because of that. But like, I don't like if naps, I missed something that happened and something that changed in the world. And now I feel like I'm catching up instead of embodying it. And I dislike it. So rest for me is not naps because I feel like it gives me more work when I wake up and I don't like that. Rest for me is like drawing, reading, laying on the couch. Sometimes it means washing the dishes because I feel like I've done something to make my house feel at rest too. And that's also really helpful. So if you're feeling that way this week, rest, however that means to you. Also, as we talked about at the beginning, if you have a lot of energy and you want to be really productive, that's awesome. If you don't have a lot of energy, be selective with how you're productive. That is also very valid. But it is being conscious of your energy space and selecting action based on that. Yeah.
And it is something about your physical health as well, especially in the gut health and nutrition are very important when it comes to Virgo. Virgo in the Zodiac Man, you can Google that. It's really cool. Kind of is around the gut area. And it's just important to keep in mind that what you take in is what you build yourself with. So make sure that energetically, nutritionally, permission-wise, anything that you are allowing into your space and into your energy, you are doing with the intention of becoming like you are what you eat, that kind of thing. What you take in is what you build yourself with. And that is the interactions from other people, the words from other people, the words from yourself, those kinds of things, which all are a result of our daily rhythms. So check in with what you do every day and how that supports your mental and physical state.
Yep. My computer just went off, which means I need to write it down. My phone and computer have been very active going off as every time you've spoken to me all day, not just on this podcast. So that's like a validation for both of us that we share. Like if our phone or computer goes off, like while we're speaking, we're like, okay, I get it. Like that's that's a big point. It is so scary and eerily accurate too, whenever it's a big deal. I was earlier, right before this, Krista and I were talking about some things in my life that I was like, okay, but that doesn't, like, that feels aligned, but I don't like it. I'm scared. And then my phone rang. I was like, damn it. Stop validating me. But I'd recommend using that. It's really helpful, and it's a very easy way for your guides to communicate with you, genuinely. Yeah. So I'm writing that down to make sure I keep it in mind as per their request.
Yay.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, be really kind with yourself, be kind with the people around you, take the time that you need to do, rant it out, journal it out too is another great way to hold space for overthinking. Even if you're not doing the swirly whirly whoopie doopie journaling that I onomatopoeied earlier, it can be stuff that you want to remember. That's fine. Scrapbooking is another great way to do it. If you want to scrapbook the way the inside of your brain feels, you can draw it if you're artistic, by all means, or you can just scrapbook it. Grab a bunch of like random newspaper clippings, grab a bunch of stickers, grab like whatever feels good, glue it all together on a page, attach string or flowers or whatever feels nice. And that's a really helpful tool to stop overthinking too.
And if you're not inclined to do it that way, use a Pinterest board.
Yeah. Also very valid.
That's where I would go.
Yeah. So anything that's like taking it and putting it outside of yourself, it's just going to really help. But examine why you might feel resistance to that first, because I feel like that's going to really connect with a lot of you. Yeah.
And go make a crown of wildflowers.
Yeah. Wildflower your head. I love it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening. We do have some exciting stuff coming up specifically for listeners of the podcast. So probably next week we'll be talking about that and announcing it, I would say.
Yeah.
I think most likely. Yeah, so get ready. Super awesome. We thank you all for all of your support. Also, if there is something you'd like us to talk about, please go to our YouTube channel, comment it under this video, shoot us an email, forgottenstorytellers@gmail.com. We really will take this into consideration. We like doing things that are on topic with you all. If there's someone you want us to interview, let us know. We'll look into interviewing them. We're not guaranteeing we will, but we'll try. By all means, please let us know. We love interacting with you all. We really love getting your recommendations. It's really fun. So we just really appreciate you, and we'd love to continue to offer you things that help you feel more valid as we navigate this, whatever this is,
the rest together. Of this. Yeah.
The rest of all of this stuff. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate you. And we hope that during this Virgo season and in this next week that you take some time and you
go make some magic.
Oh my God, it was the best one ever.
Was it? You see me cringing because I had to do it on 2.
It worked so well. I mean, maybe it didn't. Maybe the listeners are going to be like, that was horrible. Well, what is she talking about? But
we did have a listener, shout out to them, said that the first one last week worked and the second one didn't. So tell us in the comments, how does this work for you? Is this new way that we're attempting to go make some magic working, or I don't even know.
Yeah. I don't either. Anyway, we love you. Bye.